Welcome back to the Resupply with me, GuyNextDoor.
And me, Than.
Bringing you your, well, weekly, I guess, double tap of all things Laserforce and Space Marines. Welcome back from Nats, man. How you feeling?
You know, took me a couple of days to get over the jet lag. It's always worse for me going back than going down. And it's one of those really weird things. Like, got home and the first day back was like, oh yeah, I think I got enough sleep on the plane and timed right. You know, we're all good. And the second day I was just like,
Ugh.
nope. It was fucking terrible. But no, I mean it was definitely. I mean, anytime you've got 20 hours on a plane over the space of 26 or 27 hours, it's never going to be a great time.
Well, I would expect that most people now, by the time this comes out anyway, will have returned home to their respective places from Nationals. I think that the Sacramento kids last night, well, this morning being Wednesday, New Zealand time, flew out to go home. So I think by this stage everyone has to be home, and Nationals 2018 will be officially over.
Yes, it is.
I don't know about you, man, but like I always get pretty blue around it, like for about a week and a half, 2 weeks after Nationals. So I'm just starting to come out of my funk now. Although, we did get to play another night with the Sacramento guys last night, so I mean, might get a little bit of that back. But how was Nationals for you personally this year, man?
Overall, I had a really great time.
Yeah.
There were some things from an organizational level that left a little bit to be desired.
Really?
But that's you're always gonna have a little bit of that.
Yeah.
As you start transitioning from people who have historically organized and run tournaments to newer people that may have been tangentially involved with the process before, but have never necessarily been essentially the project manager who has to properly time out and delegate things and follow up on things.
Yeah.
So as much grief and irritation as I think a lot of us gave to Taipan over the week and in everything leading up to it, the reality is that this should be a really good learning experience as far as like, okay, if you can look back on the things that worked and the things that didn't work, and even for everybody else going forward, there were definitely some examples of things not to do.
Yeah.
By that same token, no, there were definitely examples of things not to do within the organization of certain things. But until you've done it, you don't really necessarily know, what that's going to look like.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, like, just one thing off the top of my head. If it's winter, don't have the awards dinner in a park with no lighting. Just as a rule.
Yeah, there is a definite difference in doing the awards dinner in a park with catered barbecue in Sacramento in July versus doing it in Brisbane in July. And for those of you keeping score at home. One is in the northern hemisphere where it's summer in July, and one is in the southern hemisphere where it's winter in July. So
as a silver lining for that, though, like one of the cool things about the night was we came back to our accommodations where like most of the traveling players were staying, and we ended up recording a podcast, and people kind of used that as a sort of party central. I mean, it didn't get crazy, but like it was certainly social. So
for sure.
That was a really rad thing about having everyone stay in the same place, because we could actually do that on the final night. It was really fun. I kind of wish there was more people who had come from, more of the locals that came. I know that a few people went out and did stuff in town, which sounded pretty rad. But me personally, I was not I wasn't really feeling being out around non-Laserforce people.
I get that.
Too cripple, and not as social as I normally am. So,
well, so you not as social as you normally are is still 10 times as social as I ever am. So, still, that works out. It works out pretty well in a lot of cases.
Yeah. Actually, on that, just if anyone has any photos, I know I put a post up on the tournaments page last week, I think, and was met with the usual level of witty comments from people. But if anyone actually has some photos, some decent photos from the awards night, could you guys chuck them up? Because I'll be super keen to see them. I'm very vain and like to see photos of myself, so hopefully there's some of those. Yeah, but I mean, with all that being said, the week was really great. I had a pretty great time, but
on my specific irritations with the week were really confined to things more on the organizational end,
right?
Like, and I do need to be really clear about that. I mean, the Brisbane Laserforce itself, as a facility, they were a fantastic host.
Absolutely. Shout out to Matili.
Shout out to all the Brisbane staff members who were there and helping put up with our crybaby demands. They were a great host. It was super, super weird to get back in that maze for the first time for me since 2007. So like everything, well, not everything, but most things were different, and it was kind of like, what the fuck am I doing in here?
Stairs.
Stairs. Who the fuck put stairs in a laser tag arena? And getting to see so much of my my laser tag family, that's always a good time.
Oh, yeah.
For as antisocial as I am on a minute by minute basis, it's not even necessarily that I'm super antisocial. It's that I am definitely an introvert, and being around people is draining. It is so draining for me to be around people, and it requires so much mental energy to actually be around and actually be kind of focused on not just kind of retreating into my shell. That I don't do it very often because it literally, I feel more tired after some of these social things than I do after running a 5K. I know some of you are going, that makes no sense, but some of you are going, oh no, I totally get that.
Oh yeah.
So being able to see so much of Lizard's family, because I mean the reality was, we had 9 teams this year. We had 54 players, which I know if there's certain Armageddon players listening to this right now, they're going 54 players in a tournament. You guys are fucking rookies. But for us, that's a big tournament, and of those 54 players, we had 15 that traveled from the States. We had 9 that actually traveled from New Zealand. There were 24 locals, and then 6 people who traveled from other places within Australia. So at kind of a meta discussion, there's definitely something to the there were only 6 other Australians that showed up at this tournament out of 54 players, and of those 6, like 2 lived down in Sydney and came up to play with New Zealand teams because they're expat Kiwis. So there's definitely some discussions that I think need some serious discussions at some point, probably relatively sooner rather than later, that need to happen with regards to trying to fold more of the Australian Laserforce centers, because they've been they've been installing a lot of sites in Australia and around the world. I mean, that's a whole thing. I mean, Laserforce has been doing incredibly well the last 4 or 5 years on getting their gear in places.
Yeah.
And so that becomes a serious conversation about how do you get more of these Australian players to things that are in Australia? How do we get more of these more of these U.S. sites involved in how do we start building a scene in Europe? I mean, there's all these kind of meta discussions that at some point need to happen with if we as a scene are serious about trying to grow things out a bit. So
it's going to need to happen as well, because as a lot of people alluded to, this particular tournament was a lot of key individuals' last tournament. So without replacing those people, you run into a dry spell. And we've been able to kind of piggyback off the success of Brisbane Laserforce for so long, with the talent pool that they have and the highly competitive league that they run on a regular basis, bringing new players through. Hopefully that continues, and as you say, hopefully we can actually garner some interest from other Australian sites. It'd be nice to get some interest here as well. There's a second site in Auckland that have just started to make some noise about putting on a tournament. Potentially it might only be like a Masters or a individual, but somebody did ask, look, would you be open to Space Marines? And they said, yeah, we would if we had the people. So that might be interesting.
And the reality is that any type of league or tournament, whether it's it's Space Marines 4 or 5, whether it's a Masters, whether it's Gladiator, anything that you can kind of use to fan the spark of competitive play is something that needs to be encouraged at a wider level. Man, I totally don't know how I went from, hey, I was going to discuss what the results were from the tournament, to this very deep conversation about how to grow things. The future. I feel like I may have done that a little out of order.
That's right.
But we do what we do, and occasionally people listen to it.
That's the joys of talking shit about Laserforce on the internet.
Yeah, pretty much. So with that, we're gonna kind of press pause on that because I'm sure I'm going to come back to it.
Absolutely.
But for everyone who either didn't follow the post game or the post night podcasts that were being done, or aren't part of the Laserforce tournament group on Facebook. Again, I know that, when we put these out, usually we try to get them out to a wider audience than just the Laserforce core players. So just recapping how the tournament ended out as far as positions. Coming in ninth, unfortunately dead last, was the Auckland B team against all odds, but they did actually win a match for the tournament. They did not get 0 pointed, which it took them until the last day to win that match. Which, if you think about it, is kind of about the progression you would expect from a team that was that was a lot of rookies and people that had never played it at that level before.
Yeah.
And what I'd like to think happened, and you'll have to confirm this for me, Steve-O, because you obviously talk with these guys because you're there with them on a much more regular basis than I am, because I've never seen most of these guys before. What I would like to think happened is that by the end of the week, by the end of the week, they were noticeably better than
Absolutely.
when they started. Because the first couple of days, even I'm sorry, boys, y'all were shit. First couple of days, it was super embarrassing. But you guys, they figured it out. They pulled out a match win at the end, which is fucking fantastic. And what I'm hoping is that they've seen the level that this game can be played at. They're going to take that back to Auckland now and be like, hey, okay, we know what this is, and now let's let's continue to build the people that didn't go. Let's see if we can raise them up also.
Yeah, so like we played at the time of recording this last night, and we put them in a match, a 2-game match against the Sacramento kids that were here, and they ended up winning both games. Obviously, home field advantage makes a big difference, but they won both games, and the first game, it was only 1,000 points in it. The second game, I think they got the Elam.
Nice.
So, it does make a difference. Morange and Mr. Doom, I felt, came back massively improved. Like, those guys have shown a huge improvement, specifically Morange. Morange picked so much up this over the week of Nationals, and has already changed the way that he plays in our arena. He seems a lot more confident, a lot quicker. He's he's always been vocal. He's a loud guy, but
he's a big guy too.
He is. But he's moving through the maze with a lot more confidence. It's really good to see. Mr. Doom's doing the same thing. Maybe to a slightly lesser extent, but still you can see that there's been an improvement there. I think with time the other boys will come through. Mookie's already a good player, so I'm not sure he would have got much out of the week. But because he came back and he got a couple of nukes diffused again last night. So that's one shit habit that he's picked up from Nationals. But yeah, all in all, I think the guys have come back excited about playing. Mr. Doom's already talking about wanting to play Nationals in Detroit next year. He's pretty fired up, so it's really good to see a renewed excitement in the game from these guys.
Well, that's definitely something that a Nationals can be good for. If it's your, I mean, granted, sometimes it can also go completely the opposite way. You decide, fuck this stupid game.
I've had both.
But, yeah, that's true. But no, I'm glad that by and large they've come back and it ended up being a positive experience for them because the first couple of days were a little rough.
By Wednesday, a couple of the guys were pushed to their like emotional limits, like and I can understand because I've been in that position where like I've been the rookie and haven't had a good tournament, and the skill jump between playing local and playing nationals is huge. So all in all, I think they recovered pretty well. I'm glad they picked up some points for the week, and hopefully they all continue to play, and we might even see a couple of them next year. Who knows?
That would definitely not be the worst thing ever.
Mm.
So moving on from them, eighth place ended up being Sac B, or the Sacramento Star Guardians, as their team name was. Which honestly, guys, that's such a fucking stupid name. So dumb, so dumb. But whatever.
I mean, hopefully they had fun too. Like, anytime that you get to travel to the other side of the world is kind of rad. Talking with the majority of them whilst they were in Auckland, they seem to have a really, really good time whilst they were in New Zealand. Apparently, much prefer New Zealand to Australia. Don't want to brag, but it is what it is.
I mean, to be fair, I mean that's certainly not a terrible opinion. I mean, I've got the same opinion, so it's cool.
But I think they enjoyed the week for the most part. They all seem really passionate about playing Laserforce as well. So, like, obviously tempers flare and drama can happen, but at the end of the day, if you're enjoying playing Laserforce and you're enjoying being around the wider Laserforce community, outside of the game, I think that's where most of the value from Nats comes from. So. I mean,
no, for sure.
I was kind of expecting them maybe to I don't know. I don't know who else I was expecting them to beat. Maybe a couple of the Brisbane teams, but yeah, would have been nice to see a couple more wins. But shit happens.
Yeah, true. And seventh place was Oakleigh plus DK and Nimitz.
Oh, my boys.
Yeah, I mean the reality here is that I think 4 years off between playing probably did do some of them any favors because that's just reality. I mean you still have the muscle memory, but it's a little challenging to try to just pick back up right where you left off. Having said that, it wasn't like they were any sort of easy meat throughout the week. It was definitely, it was definitely always hard fought going in against them. Just some of that little, match sharpness that, how are you supposed to have it after being away for 4 years?
Yeah.
But given a choice between, them being there and not having match sharpness and seeing all those guys and them not being there, not seeing them, I will always choose them being there so I can hang out with those guys because I love all those guys. They're awesome.
We and again, like staying in the same places. So I think going forward is so important for the traveling teams because having them just across like basically the driveway from where we were staying was awesome. Like we got to hang out during the week. Played a bunch of games. Al lent his vocal talents to the podcast a couple times.
Also true.
We got to do a couple of Movie World days, which is almost a I guess it's almost a given that you're going to spend at least one day at a theme park with the boys because why wouldn't you? And like I love these boys. Like they probably. For me, at least, some of the guys that I've known the longest in the scene. And Auckland and Oakleigh have always kind of had a special bond. So anytime, all of our matches were really fun. Like they were competitive, but they were really fun. They didn't have a angry vibe to them. You know,
Very true. Yeah, I'll
and they
agree
were
with that.
competitive. So I was hoping again. I was hoping that they would finish a little higher, but I mean, Taipan called their position, which pissed them off. I know, like, I know at the start of the week they were pretty,
Irritated.
yeah, that's a word with their rankings, but he picked it. So,
Fucked off.
yeah,
Fucked off, I think, would be a much better phrase.
but it is what it is. It's so good to see them, and hopefully it's not another 4 years between drinks.
Same, for sure.
Mm.
So, 5th and 6th, that game to actually set that position didn't actually end up getting played due to an injury for one of the Brisbane Bs.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, so 5th and 6th, technically 5th place ended up with Brisbane D, and 6th ended up with the Brisbane C team, who were called the Brisbane Bs. If you keep all that straight, you're doing better than I am. So I mean, the reality here is that the Brisbane D team super overperformed based on initial projections.
Yeah, the Hellcats, if you will.
Yes, that was definitely in round play they picked up 38 points. So that they were in 6th at the end of rounds. Yeah, definitely wasn't the point level that people were expecting them to pick up, or at least it certainly wasn't the point level I was expecting them to pick up.
Yeah.
But they started off the week a little rough, and then they were like a team of fucking cockroaches. You just couldn't fucking kill them. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And then and where the fuck is Screever getting all his fucking points from? I mean, those were like the two things that I kept hearing the most. Why the fuck won't they die? And where the fuck is Screever getting all his points from? It was just it was fucking weird. I'm not gonna lie, it was fucking weird.
I mean,
and also we do also have to give some credit to Josiah Fear Turkey from Loveland who was playing with them, and for as much as I have some other challenges with Josiah, have to give him credit for helping to make that team better.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the kid can play. He's obviously can have a bit of a shit attitude at some time. You need to step your game up, son. But he's a good player, and brought a lot of value to that team. And that team were creating upsets all over the place. They took games off us. They took games off the Bees. They took games off I think
Golden Oldies.
Yeah, they took a game off the Golden Oldies. So. And much to the chagrin of the Oakleigh team, because they will obviously they needed the Hellcats to finish with far less points than they did, so that they would have a chance to get through the finals, and they just wouldn't be smushed, and played really
like
well.
I said, they're a bunch of fucking cockroaches, just would not die. So and then Brisbane B is the injury that prevented them and Hellcats from doing their 5th, 6th playoff. L, who was their medic, got a concussion.
That's so rough, man.
Yeah, so that's just not. I mean, obviously not the high point of anybody's day.
But not only did she get a concussion, but like it was inflicted by her own teammate. So
yeah, so that there was just so much, not so much there that was not fantastic, but it turned out she was okay. She did actually go to the hospital for observation for a few hours. And they turned her loose, so she was able to get to the awards dinner, which was cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the Bees were another one of those teams that's just like they just kept taking random points from people, and they were definitely a good solid team. There were the points that they were taking, you were kind of going, yeah, okay, I can see that game going that way. Um, so yeah, I mean, it was another another team that was great fun to play against, and yeah, it was, and again, people that I hadn't seen for years in some cases. And
Yeah.
it was just it was just another good time.
I mean, that team had some actually some decent talent on it. I thought that striker played really well all week. Squizzer was a pain in my ass all week. Troy played a pretty solid week at heavy. Deza was pretty solid at scout, and then the resupply, like Cookie and Al, did really well, especially considering Al has only been playing for 3 months prior to the tournament. So
No, she would have been second season, 3 months, 6 months. I mean, it wasn't a long period of time.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But I feel fairly certain it was longer than 3 months. However, I'm sure somebody will correct us on that, because
at least we got a name right
people...
now going forward.
Yeah, true. That is true. Yeah. And then moving from that into fourth place, that was us. Team Mana, Auckland A, Auckland OG, whatever the fuck you want to call us. And really, fourth was a fair finish for us.
Yeah.
I mean, there were. I'm a little bitter about the second game of our fourth place game against the USA A team, because we had them and then suddenly we didn't. Yeah, which could have flipped that, but on the whole, I mean, it was a fantastic week for me of playing with really, really, really good friends. Playing with family, basically. And I know that we had a couple of games, very small mistakes that ended up being very costly, which does just go to show that in Brisbane, more so than most mazes, small errors get magnified very, very quickly.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, we definitely fell victim to a few small errors that magnified very quickly. Don't get me wrong, we fell victim to a few large errors that magnified it exponentially as well. But yeah, no, I would definitely, the only, I have two things that I'm a little bummed about for the week. One, that Blair's hip decided that it wanted to be stupid.
He's like done something to a tendon in his hip, I heard. So he's pretty munted.
Well, that's fair. So him going from being able to be mobile to suddenly not being mobile. That was definitely a blow. I mean, it definitely involves some changing between him and Leech, so that switching Leech to commander and making Blair play scout because he just didn't have the mobility anymore. So that definitely hurt. And it was kind of sad that Virus couldn't join us this year as well, because it's always nice to see Sam when he's able to make the trip. And, that would have been that would have been an interesting sub thing at that point. It's like, oh, Blair, your hip's screwed. Well, hey, Sam. We're just gonna roll with that instead. So yeah, little bummed, but Sam, next time your wife says, hey, just go ahead and buy the ticket when it's that cheap, maybe you should listen to her. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Throwing him under the bus there, because why not? It's what I do.
it would have been so good to have him. Mostly because, like, you know, we saw him last year and it was awesome, but you know, since he moved to Europe, we don't really get to see a lot of him. So
It's funny how that works.
yeah. But it would have changed the dynamics of our team quite a bit, I think, and you know, given us a bit more mobility when Blair went down, and like all props to Monkey Crab because he still stuck it out for the rest of the tournament. You know,
Yep.
he sucked it up and was like, yeah, cool. I mean, I might be a missile sponge, but I'm there for you guys. So, yeah, it was such a good week to play with the boys. Like, I felt that our team, when we were good, we were great. When we were bad, we were shit. We're basically like the Warriors. We're the Warriors of Laserforce. I mean, most Australians will probably get that. I don't know about the Americans, but yeah, it was pretty good. I am disappointed we didn't get top 3, but to be fair, I think the top 3 placings were all highly deservingly so. They were most certainly the best 3 teams that were playing.
Yeah, I mean, third place we had the USA Golden Freedom Eagles. Again, that's a really fucking stupid name. Which, I mean, and that was, you know, that was a really strong team.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that, you know, in hindsight 2020, you kind of look at it. It's like, you know, what was there any other, you know, combination of players that could have maybe made it a little bit stronger?
Mm.
And I mean, the answer to that question is pretty much always going to be probably, because that's just the nature of it. You know,
Yeah.
when you get perfect 2020 hindsight, you can kind of go, oh, hey, you know, maybe this, and this.
I know FireballDK would have been a massive asset to that team had things shaken out a little differently. Because he's such a good player and he's got so much game experience. He's been playing for such a long time that he's an asset to any team. But yeah, it especially would have helped them, I think.
Yeah, and then, you know, also, you know, had Baden's knee not been, you know, deciding to dislocate at a moment's notice. I mean, that was pretty terrible. Yeah, Baden, thanks for giving us all a scare by, you know, having your knee dislocate and you fall down the ramp. That was pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
As far as I'm aware, it's his MCL is basically gone, so he's got to go for surgery.
Yeah. So, but no, I mean, from a points from rounds perspective, you know, first, second, and third. I mean, it's like, so we did finish in 4th after round play on 48 points. Mm. The gap from us to 3rd, I mean, they had 72 points.
Yeah,
we had 48. It's not like there was a small, you know, drop between the two. No, there's a pretty significant drop there. So, you know, so USAA coming in 3rd. I mean, yeah, it's a deserved result as far as that goes. And then we move on to, you know, second and first place, which is, you know, basically the most boring part of this. Second place was Brisbane B, which is, you know, Taipan's team, the Brisbane Heretics, and first place was the Golden Oldies, which was Rusty's team. And I mean, going into the tournament, this is pretty much what I think everybody said first and second was going to be.
Yeah.
I don't think there was anybody that had these 2 teams out of the top 2. Yeah, I mean, what more do we want to say about that? I mean, first and second ended up the teams we thought that were going to happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The finals was I didn't ref the finals. I probably should have. But I didn't ref the finals.
Lucky you, because after the first and second games ended with the Oldies eliminating the Heretics, they decided to do boring fucking wall for Game 3. Basically wave the white flag, and yeah, it was pretty much 15 of the most boring minutes I've ever had reffing a Space 5 game. So, thanks for that, I guess. I mean, it was just one of those moments of, really? Yeah. This is how we're finishing? Yeah. Really? This is what we're doing? But, you know, whatever. It's it's a thing. It happened. We we move on.
Yeah, I mean the
Um,
Heretics, they played pretty well all week. I'm not sure. I think a couple of decisions that Taipan made may have cost him a crack at Medic Killer, but for the most part they played a pretty good week. And then the Golden Oldies were just as good, I think. Well, almost as good as I was expecting. They were pretty dominant all week, and what was really awesome was the sportsmanship that they showed with like trying to help other people get better. Like, so Beast took me into the game, into the maze, I think in day 2 or possibly day 3, and said, right, okay, here's what I do. This is how I play this maze. Here's a couple of things that I've been doing, and it's working really well. And after he showed me, like, straight away my game improved. So I was super grateful that he actually
yep.
took the time to help me get better. And I assumed that a couple of the guys did the same thing for other players. I keep hearing stories of people saying, such and such showed me this thing, or they showed me how to hold this area properly or whatever. So massive shout out to those guys for helping the traveling teams become more competitive, so that they didn't get shit stomped all week.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a solid, through line from I think pretty much all the Brisbane players.
Yeah.
Was that pretty much everybody was very generous with their time and their knowledge.
Yeah.
It in definitely trying to help people learn the maze, because for those of you that haven't been to Brisbane, whether you're a Laserforce player or not a Laserforce player, Brisbane's maze is extraordinarily idiosyncratic. It's definitely got a lot of weird angles. It's probably the most zone of control maze I've ever played in. Where and because of the because of the shots that you can get off from distance, it's not like sorry, Laser Quest people, it's not like you can just be in one area out in the open and be confident you're not going to get hit from 60 feet away. That's for those of you not keeping up at home. That's always been a knock on the Laser Quest gear, especially the older stuff. Is it does not have range for shit. If the new stuff has range, well, I'm happy to be proven. I'm happy to be told I'm wrong by actual Quest players. But my experience with that gear was that it just had no range whatsoever. So you could zone of control. Yeah, you could zone of control something. Be able to see stuff 50 feet away, but not have to worry about getting shot from there.
Yeah.
Whereas in Brisbane's maze with Laserforce gear, even with the IR tamped down, you can shoot completely across the arena,
Yeah.
and there are certain shots that you can hit that if you're not zone of controlling that particular area, your medic is going to have a really bad time.
Yeah.
So yeah, so when you're trying to just learn that maze, if you were trying to learn that maze cold with no local help, then it's going to take an exponentially longer amount of time to deal with it. And because all the Brisbane players were like, oh no, try to do this, maybe look for this, and this, that, and the other, it was such a huge help.
Absolutely.
So definitely can't say enough nice things about people that were helping.
I don't remember the maze. I don't remember playing the maze that style in previous tournaments, which is probably why we haven't done very well at previous tournaments in Brisbane. But with the changes that are there now, you have to control those zones. And if one person isn't doing the job properly, the whole team suffers for it. So, like you say, it's super helpful that they helped us out with that. Yeah.
Now, so moving on from team stats and ranks to individual awards, because people are always curious about those too. Um, so MVP by position, and for those of you that aren't aware, because again there might be one or two of you listening. If you've managed to get this far, congratulations. That aren't those are Florida players. So we have we have basically a player run stats website, lfstats.com, and one of the things that we do on that stats website is we basically do MVP points, which there's a whole bunch of math that goes into things that the scorecard will tell us about the game, as far as hit differentials and score and accuracy and da 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 da. And we take all that, and through a metric fuck ton of math, we generate MVP scores. We generate MVP scores for each person based on their position as well as their overall MVP, if they've played across multiple positions. It's intended as kind of an even out, just to try to determine the relative value of one player to another. But numbers aren't the numbers aren't everything, because they can't tell an entire story, but they can get you to a ballpark,
which is kind of the difference between MVP and All-Star, right? But we'll get into that.
Yeah, correct. So MVP by position, at Commander, once again it was Rusty.
Yeah.
That's always Rusty, because fuck you, Rusty. And I say that with all intended love, because Rusty was one of the most generous Brisbane players. Absolutely. As far as walking people through the maze, showing people stuff and whatnot. So I love you, Rusty, but I hate you ever so much. MVP at Heavy was Taipan.
Yep.
Even with all the penalties he had called against him, which is pretty awesome as far as that goes. Scouts, we had boomTrain and Dredge.
Nice.
Ammo was Glaedr, and Medic was Freddo. Now, one thing of note with the MVP calculation this year, as opposed to previous years, we actually had something added to the scorecards, which you can do when the programmer is playing for one of the teams. Shout out Scorpion, thank you very much. Something we've been asking for a lot of years is basically how long the game how long a player actually lasted in Space 5. And so if you get an elim, how long did the game actually go? And if you died out before the game ended, where in the game did you actually die? And it's something that we've wanted for a long time, because it does enable, it basically enables a bunch more math to give relative player values, and it also helps people it helps to stop people from farming games for MVP points, because previously you weren't really incentivized to kill the other team, even though that's kind of the object of the game, is to kill the other fucking team. Now that we have that piece of information on the scorecards, that becomes some math that we can mess with. So I have a feeling that there's going to be some more tweaks to the scoring as far as that goes.
There's been a lot of discussion after the tournament about. I guess there's always been discussion around how MVP works and what's weighted and what's not. And and at some point, I do want to do a podcast that sort of goes further into the difference between how MVP works now and how we have kind of done it in the past on the voting system, player-based voting system.
Oh, trust me, that's definitely on my list of things that I want us to do a pod on.
Yeah.
I've already talked to Russ, and he's super down
Cool.
for coming back on the pod to talk about
You
it.
know,
So
we'll actually get a insight on that from one Duckman based out of Oakleigh, Melbourne. He's quite keen to put his 2 cents in that as well. So that'll be an interesting pod when we eventually get around to recording it.
yeah, for sure.
um,
Um, I didn't write down who the overall MVP was. Probably doesn't matter.
I think it was Taipan.
Or
I think.
it 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 possibly was. In that case, okay, it does matter. I'm just being a jerk. And so moving on from that, so Medic Killer was Hoodlum
Awesome.
from Oakleigh. Should be noted that all the MVP All-Stars were from Brisbane in various ways, shapes, and forms. And part of the reason I went off on the tangent about the MVP stat stuff is when you elim almost every team you play, you're gonna get some pretty nice bonuses
Absolutely.
to arc you up, which is why there probably needs to be a little more discussion and tweaking about exactly how we're doing that.
Yeah.
But that'll be a later pod. And yeah, Medic Killer hoodie now. This is of note because this dumb motherfucker needed like 11 medic hits in their very last game, which happened to be against us. And of course, I was playing medic, and so this dumb motherfucker decided that he really needed to shoot me a ton, and you guys didn't prevent him. So fuck you. So fuck my teammates for not preventing Hoodie from shooting bunches.
So at the before this game happened, I had Hoodie come up to me at the start of the game going, look, if you want to take it easy on me, like I only need this many medic kills, that'd be awesome. And I had Taipan come up to me because he was in first before that game, say, don't let him in, like make sure that you do your best, don't fuck this up, don't screw me on this. And my response to both of them was the same. It was, if Hoodie wants medic killer, he's gonna have to earn it, because I ain't going hard. I'm not gonna go easy on him, and he fucking earned it. He did so well that game. It was frustrating for me because I obviously I love Hoodlum, and like I wanted him to win, but at the same time I definitely didn't want him to win against my team. So it reflects poorly on me as the heavy if one player gets in and how many times did he hit you?
Like 14. He fucking rapes me.
Oh, it's a poor reflection on my ability to keep my medic safe if the commander can come in and put 14 hits on the medic. It's shitty. So like, well done, bro, but fuck you.
Yeah, pretty much. And then to the player's choice team. So this was the actual teams that were voted on. And the nice thing about this year's voting, which I actually really did appreciate, because it's not something we've done in past years, was the ballots weren't anonymous. And the reason that I say that as a positive is there's been some potential issues in previous years with people double voting and some people not voting, and this, that, and the other. So at least if you've got the names on the ballot, you can kind of tag out, whose vote are we actually missing?
Yeah.
So that was nice. That was definitely a nice touch.
It also came into play with Rookie of the Year, which we'll get into after this, I think.
Yeah, that'll be the next thing. So player's choice. Commander was again Rusty because he's Rusty. Again, for those of you that have never had the pleasure/pain of playing against him, he has a very legitimate argument as basically being the greatest SM5 commander of all time.
Yeah.
It's a horrible thing to have to admit, but he really does have the bona fides for that,
yeah.
And there's not too many people that would argue that he's right up there at the at the very top of the game,
Yeah.
even even now. Heavy, this was a bit of a surprise to
Mm.
me. I'm not gonna lie, because it was actually my buddy Stevo, guy next door, getting the player's choice vote for Heavy. Which and Stevo, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is literally the very first time you've ever gotten a player's choice award.
It
Would
is.
that be
It's
accurate?
accurate. I've wanted this award for it seems dumb as I say it, but I wanted this award the entire time I played nationals. Maybe with the exception of my first nats in 2003, but certainly from after that, where basically I played heavy for the last 13 years. 13, 14 years. I've wanted to win this award, and there's been so many great heavies ahead of me, for the early years. Duckman and Trad were both amazing heavies. Uh, Guys like Taipan can play heavy like really, really well. Beast is a beast. That dude is such a good player. Baden is an amazing heavy. So I was just as surprised as you, to be fair. I had a couple of people come up to me at the awards dinner before the votes were sort of before the ceremony happened, and they were like, "Oh, yeah, I voted for you," and I was like, "Wait, what? Why?" So yeah, I was pretty stoked. I was just as surprised as you, to be fair.
That's hey, sometimes those are the best
Yeah,
ones. And Players' Choice Scouts, we had boomTrain from Brisbane and our own 2K
yeah.
King from Team Mana. This was one of those that was, I thought, very well deserved
Absolutely.
for 2K, because um, he he and I had a conversation, about, he had made a very deliberate choice, um, very early on in the week, that you know he knew what he needed to do to support the team,
Mm,
and he knew that what he needed to do to support the team was not going to be sexy, was not going to get him meta
mm,
kits, was probably not going to get him a great score, but it was the dirty work in the midfield of the Brisbane Maze
mm.
that needs to be done in order for the zone of control stuff to
Yeah, he
work.
did it so
And
well, man.
yeah, and he just got stuck into it, and and he was always a thorn in people's sides.
Mm,
He was places that he was supposed to be. He was places that surprised the fuck out of the opposing team.
mm,
So him getting this, like, if 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 you look at his actual MVP score, it's not that high.
mm,
It's genuinely not. He's solidly like mid tier, mid table with that.
mm,
But the impact that he had on the games for us, obviously for us especially, um, you know, was significantly greater than what you would have expected by looking at the MVP, which is why we say that MVP points will get you into the ballpark, but they don't tell the whole story, and
mm.
they certainly did not tell the whole story in 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 this case, for the level of dirty work that he was doing, as far as helping to maintain those zones. So 2K shot, bro.
Both him and Leech were really frustrated early in the tournament because they both are really quick guys, and that's one of their biggest assets is how fast they can move through an arena. And
True.
Brisbane kind of takes that away from you. Like the Brisbane Maze, because it's about zone control, it takes away all your speed. So now the asset becomes, okay, how tall are you? How how well are you at? How good are you at standing your ground and just picking people off? And so like yeah, he was very frustrated. And then once it clicked for him, like oh man, he was a beast.
Yeah, for sure. And then ammo player's choice was our very own FireballDK from
Yeah.
Sacramento. So that was, again, he'd stepped into the role with Oakleigh, as they were trying to figure out what their best lineup was, and um, yeah, I mean, really helped cement the back line of that team,
Yeah.
and was putting in a lot of hard yards.
It's an
So
interesting one having a player like him um, in the resup because, looking at that team, I would have thought that, personally, I would have liked to have had him out attacking because he's very direct with his attack and he's pretty accurate and, can do some damage. But, if you look at the other guys on that team, then, who else would you replace? Who else would you want to trust at the back? So, yeah, it was certainly an interesting call, like having him play ammo.
yeah, I mean, interesting, but not bad by any
For sure.
means. I mean, but and again, that was a vote that I wasn't expecting the result of either for
Yeah.
sure. Which again, again, there's been all these happy surprises, and then we get to the last happy surprise, which was me getting voted Player's Choice Medic,
It's your boy.
and and you want to talk about like just jaw dropped, jaw dropped and in shock. It was like my name got read out, and I just kind of stood there for a minute, like, are you fucking kidding? Really? Are are you guys sure you didn't mean to vote for Maniac? Because I voted for Maniac, and okay, sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was definitely I have won a couple of these before for ammo, many many years ago when I was not quite so old. But this one definitely caught me by surprise. I was in no way, shape, or form expecting anybody to vote for me for Player's Choice, because quite honestly, I didn't feel like I had a really good week.
Right.
I felt like I was having a completely shit week. Well, not completely shit, but definitely not up to the standards that I've set for myself for previously.
Right.
And to have enough other people decide, no, actually, we saw you grinding, and we saw you, helping control the back, and we saw you do this, and we saw you do that, and so we're gonna, recognize that. It was kind of a nice feeling. I'm not gonna lie, it was a pretty nice feeling.
I'm glad that you won it because, like, I thought, there was a couple of instances where I would get shitty with you, or I would get shitty at you for getting shitty with me. But
what are you talking about? That never happens.
It's funny, like, yeah. I at one point told you to calm down because you were looking at me weird.
Yes, you did, and then I think I told you to shut the fuck up. And
so good.
yeah, it was pretty good.
But like I thought that both you and Sneak, like obviously I'm a little biased because you guys were my resupply, but I thought both of you had a pretty damn good week, and played so well as a backline for us. Like you guys, cemented the back so well for us. So I mean, it's hugely important for somebody to do it, and I thought that you guys both did it really well. So I'm glad that you got some recognition for it because it's always nice to see my boys win awards.
Yeah, it's definitely not the worst feeling ever. And then moving on to Rookie of the Year. Now this was, I mean, getting back to the non-anonymous voting. So this came in huge because people didn't know a specific person on our team was a rookie. People did not know that this was Leech's first tournament, which, I mean, really, it does sound surprising.
It cracks me up
but
because I campaigned pretty hard for him, and like I think we even mentioned it in one of the one of the podcasts during the week.
we did.
But whatever. Maybe people need to listen to the podcast more. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe people should like subscribe so they know when we posted them. But yeah, so the because the votes weren't anonymous, people found out late that he was a rookie after some votes had already been cast. Some people literally did go back in, find their ballot, and change their vote.
Yeah.
So that was that was a thing that happened.
And not to take anything away from the other rookies, because like Screever was awesome. I thought Screever was awesome all week.
Well, again, most common thing after their games. Where the fuck is Screever getting all his fucking points?
And there was
Plus, and plus,
Sharpshooter.
let's also, well, that. But I was going to go back to Screever. He has glorious hair.
He's like a lion.
Yeah, with his glorious mane that I am so jealous of because I have no hair. And Sneak was jealous of it too because he has no hair either. So
baldest resupply at Nationals.
Pretty much, yeah.
But yeah, so him and Sharpshooter both like played really awesome all week. So it wasn't to take anything away from those guys. But once we made the switch from Leech playing Scout and put him as the commander, he just blossomed. He was awesome. And I think like that really, obviously was appreciated by the wider community. So yeah, it was rad to see him win it. I think he was highly deserving, and I think that meant that both King brothers have won Rookie of the Year when they're in their debut tournaments.
Well, because considering you can only win Rookie in your debut tournament, that would make sense. Well, it's more that they won it 10 years apart because 2K got his in 2008 in Ballarat. Now Leech has got his 18 in Brisbane.
Yeah.
So that was all super awesome. As I think 2K was mocking his brother like, oh sure, you have to copy me again. But I guess that's what you do when you have a younger brother who's trying to follow in your footsteps. You give him a whole bunch of shit.
That's right. It was
so yeah.
It was awesome to see, like, from obviously a very heavily Team Mana perspective on this podcast. It was awesome to see, like, almost all of our guys pick up some accolades. Everyone but Sneak, I think, right? Won an individual award. Oh, and Monkey Crab.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Blair was super injured, so that was never going to happen, unfortunately, with his level of injury. Sneak was the only So we had 2/3 of our team pick up silverware of some form, and the reality, I feel fairly certain that Sneak would have gotten votes at Ammo.
I'm pretty sure I voted for him. I thought he played awesome all week. He was really, really good all week. And we hadn't trained. I mean, we hadn't trained as a team, but his expectation was that he was going to be playing Scout. So for him to drop back into the ammo role and kill it, like, he played so good all week. It's probably one of the best tournaments I think I've seen him play. Like, obviously Ballarat, he was amazing, but this year he was so good. But
yes,
on the rookie thing, and maybe it's a discussion for another pod, but there were some interesting questions brought up around the I guess the eligibility of being a rookie. So maybe looking at, okay, not just is this your first national or internationals tournament, but maybe take in consideration how long you've played for, or other stuff that kind of should be factored in. Because looking at someone like Leech, who's played Laserforce for the last 10 to 12 years, somewhat competitively at Auckland, but never competed in a tournament, versus someone that has only been playing a seasonal league or two at Brisbane or whatever, and they're in that's supposed to be compared. So it's an interesting point of discussion for another day. But
yeah, definitely another day, because we've already been talking shit for over an hour. So, Beans is gonna flip his shit when he sees how long this pod is. But yeah, I mean, but I mean that was that's pretty much the sum and recap of Brisbane Internationals
Yeah.
2018.
I would
You know,
rate this as one of my favorite tournaments. I think like it was run like from a day-to-day operation point of view, getting the games in and out as quick as they were. That was amazing. The
and yeah, the day-to-day stuff. Glaedr needs needs to get
massive shout
a
out to
fair
him.
amount of credit. Yeah, needs to be given a lot of credit because he was definitely very instrumental in trying to keep the games running in on
Yeah,
time and and all that. So definitely definitely shout out to him for doing the
yeah,
things, as it were.
absolutely. And like getting to play with the new Gen 8 suits. Oh my god, it's so good. It was a little bit depressing coming home and playing in our packs. Like they do seem like our Gen 6 packs that we have
Hmm.
look old. They look old. They look battered. So
Yeah, the whole the whole Gen 8 packs. I mean that's going to be a whole other podcast with us doing a full review on
yeah,
those. So, but yeah, the super short review, the TLDR, for those of you that have not played on Gen 8 packs yet, holy fuck balls,
oh,
they're
so
amazing.
good, so
But
good.
we'll have a full pod where we quiver
Wax
over
poetic.
them. Yeah, where we wax poetic, for I'm sure a really long time about them.
Yeah.
So
Um, the social aspect of this tournament could have been a little better, but all things considered, we're playing 12-hour days. Um, it was actually better than I thought it was going to be. Like, and again for future nationals, everyone stay in the same fucking place because it is amazing. Even if some of the locals want to get on that train, come stay at a trailer park with the rest of your Laserforce whānau. Um, but yeah, it ranked up there with one of my favorite tournaments. Seeing the Laserforce family again, it always makes me emotional. I'm not
yeah,
known for my emotions, but
uh-huh.
um,
You can you, you can think that, Steve-O. You're wrong, but you can think that.
um, anything else you want to kind of sum the week up
No,
with?
I think we've I think I talked way too much at the beginning all already with stuff. So, um, yeah, no, it was a good week, and so I'm sure in the next couple of pods we'll start the hype train
Oh
for next
yeah.
year, because that's just how that seems to be be our role, is to induce FOMO in people, so they decide they have to go to nationals.
Well, I'm
So
fairly certain, like, my likelihood of coming, I'm at about 80% at the moment. Like, I'm pretty sure I'll be there next year. So, um, but yeah, like you say, we'll start the hype train soon enough, so people can start planning and there's already been talks of maybe a Laser Force Vegas trip before the tournament, or
oh god.
that would be awesome. That's something I could get behind. But
I had a whole bunch of Laser Force people in Vegas. Oh my
it
God.
would be amazing. I think that's something that we got to make happen. So
I think I think I'm always entirely too sober to deal with all you assholes in Vegas. I don't know if I could deal with that.
I mean, I had my level of frustration about being sober Steve this year, because uh, playing 12 hours of Laser Force and then dealing with drunk people is. I can see why you're so angry all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
um,
but no, we will start that hype train. I'm gonna say probably with our pods starting either next month September or the pods in October,
yeah,
kind of depends upon when some of the initial things get set. Like literally, all we know right now is the location, which is going to be Detroit. Murder capital of the world. Oh wait, no, that's Chicago. Sorry, capital of the U.S. Whatever. So we'll go from there.
Cool. All right. Well, for this week, I've been GuyNextDoor.
And I've been Than.
And remember, kids, always remember to backtrack. We shall see you next time.
And buy travel insurance and keep your fucking gun up.
Peace.